Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to Office Hours with the Professor, the show where I say things. Coming up today, we have It's All Chinese to Me, Part 4, Chinese Language Varieties. Okay, so after our discussion of the very ancient origins of Chinese, let's come back to modern times and talk about the varieties of Chinese that are spoken now. Now, in modern parlance, we usually refer to dialects of the Chinese language, right? But today we won't be doing that. This is because Chinese is a really internally diverse, really more of a continuum that, at least to me as a language learner, doesn't seem like one language at all, but rather a subfamily of related languages. Of course, this is all quite subjective, as there really is no strict rule for separating languages on the one hand and dialects on the other. Ultimately, I think it's a question of politics. Since China places a strong emphasis on national unity, they're very eager to think of even highly divergent varieties as dialects. So, imagine, for example, the Roman Empire, if it had never fallen and it persisted into the 20th century, and to this day, half of Europe is still governed by its successor state. We would still have languages like Spanish and French, but they might still be considered regional Latin, quote, dialects, given the history of political unity. So just as a Spaniard and a Frenchman may recognize the similarities between their languages but still find communication difficult, so would be the situation between, say, someone from Sichuan and someone from Hong Kong. So instead of using the words language and dialect today, we're going to just say variety. So let's take a look. Now, there are about 10 main varieties of Chinese, give or take, and I only have exposure to 3 of them. And even then, I can't claim to be an expert, but I do think it's interesting, and I would love to spread the word a little bit about this cool topic. So firstly, I'd like to talk about what's called, in English, Mandarin. Okay. And Mandarin is by far the most widely spoken Chinese variety. I think it has something like 1 billion speakers. And in common parlance, the term Mandarin is frequently used as a name for Standard Chinese. Okay, so Standard Chinese, but really Standard Chinese is one of many Mandarin varieties, Mandarin sub-varieties. For instance, here in the city where I'm in now, Guiyang, the locals speak what's called a Southwest Mandarin variety, but that doesn't mean that it's the same as Standard Chinese, as any Guiyanger will tell you. Although it's closer to Standard Chinese than what you'd hear in maybe Hong Kong, Guiyang Hua, that's what they call it, Guiyang Hua. Hua means speech, so Guiyang Hua, Guiyang speech. Guiyang Hua has a Southern Chinese habit of merging its L sound and its N sound. Okay, so whereas Northern Mandarin varieties maybe don't really have this habit. Instead, a lot of Northern Mandarin speakers will add kind of an R sound to after their vowels. So there's a popular joke, of course, among expats in China that people from Beijing talk like pirates because they're always adding the r after their vowels. So let's look at a really simple sentence in Standard Chinese, okay? And the sentence we're going to look at is. Let's see. I think it's this one. Good. Okay, I think my stroke order was right on that, but you can correct me if you like. And so this is in Standard Chinese. This would be pronounced 在哪里？ 在哪里? And what it really means is it's over there. Okay, so maybe we're talking about something and I want to say where it is. Oh, it's over there. 在哪里? Okay. Whereas in Northern Mandarin, it would be 在哪儿? 在哪儿, because they have this habit of adding an R sound after their vowels. So in Northern Mandarin, in 100% standard Chinese, we would say 在哪里? Whereas a Northern Mandarin speaker, maybe somebody from Beijing, would say 在哪儿? Okay? Whereas in Guiyang Hua, remember that's where I am now, let's say GY, Guiyang Hua, they would say 在哪里? 在哪里? Because there's a merger between the L and the N sound. So in standard Chinese, we have 在哪里. In Northern Mandarin, we have 在哪儿, and, sorry, 在哪儿, 在哪儿. And in Guiyang Mandarin, we have 在哪里. All right, whereas in English, we would say, oh, it's over there. Now, another cool thing that Guiyang Hua does that standard Chinese doesn't do is that it merges what are called hushers. So that's, for linguists out there, that's post-alveolar sounds. So things like CH, SH, ch, sh, with hissers, that is like S and TS. So with ch, sh, right, there's a merger. So for example, we have two words in standard Chinese. This is se, meaning the number 4, and this is shi, meaning the number 10. 10, right? So, and of course, there's a really popular Chinese tongue twister that has these, but in Guiyang, they cannot say this tongue twister because there's such a blend, such a merger between se and shi. It's really both pronounced something like se. Right? So, which makes it, at least to my uninitiated ear, makes it quite confusing because I just want to get my shopping done and I don't understand when they tell me the price. It's a big problem. So anyway, but it's a cool linguistic feature. This feature is shared with other varieties across southern China, okay? And one of these varieties is Wu. That's W-U as in Wu-Tang Clan, but W-U. Wu Chinese, and that's spoken around the mouth of the Yangtze in places like Shanghai and Hangzhou, where I used to live, and it shares the hisser-husher merger that we see in Guiyang Hua with another really cool feature. Wu has voiced initials. Okay, now what is a voiced initial? Let's go over what I mean when I say that. When we take apart a Chinese syllable, so let's say tong, and this means together, okay? Let's break this syllable apart. So first of all, we have the initial, the t, the T sound, ta, the vowel, the o, and the coda, ng. So initial, vowel, coda, okay? And in most modern Chinese varieties, there are two main rules concerning the consonants, okay? The first rule is the only consonants allowed in the coda, the only consonants allowed in the coda are n and m, okay? And the second rule is non-nasal initial consonants, right? So if they're not M or N, non-nasal initial consonants are voiceless, maybe L too, but these non-nasal initial consonants, so they're voiceless. Now that means that you are not making a humming noise in your throat when you make the sounds, right? And you can test whether a sound is voiced or voiceless by putting a finger on your throat and checking for vibration, okay? It's really cool. Using this method, for example, we can deduce that b, a B sound is voiced, whereas p, is voiceless, right? So the Mandarin, right? The Mandarin phonemic inventory contains the latter, the pa, but not the former, ba. But wait a minute, isn't there a B in Beijing? Although the modern Hanyu pinyin romanization system does use the letter B, the initial consonant in Beijing is actually an unaspirated pa, which means that it's a pa sound, but unaccompanied by a puff of air that we as English speakers like to add. So let's try. Make this sound pa without a puff of air afterward. Hold a hand up to your mouth and try not to feel a puff of air. Pa, pa, pa. And that gives us the name Beijing, which is more accurate. Of course, I have an accent, but that's how it's pronounced in Chinese. So this confusion of unaspirated versus voiced is one of the current romanization system's great shortcomings. Pinyin has this great shortcoming, and that is why I myself greatly prefer the older romanization system, the Wade-Giles. It kicks ass. With this system, we have Beijing romanized as Beijing, which is much more accurate to the Chinese pronunciation. So we'll talk more about this awesome Wade-Giles system a little bit later, but let's leave that alone for now. So in Wu, on the other hand, the b actually exists as a distinct sound along with other voice consonants that existed in ancient Chinese, but have dropped out of most other modern varieties. You know, back when I lived in Wuxi and Hangzhou, these are two Wu-speaking cities. I remember how every day I would get to listen to people using these beautiful millennia-old voiced initials, b, g, g. I used to close my eyes and imagine that I had traveled back in time to the Tang Dynasty or the Song Dynasty, which we do, in a way, when we hear these voiced consonants handed down from very long ago. You know, I don't speak Wu, I only know a few words, but I do remember how to say thank you. Okay, so let's learn how to say thank you in Wu. Okay. Jia. Okay, and if we want to say thank you, we would say jia jia, jia jia, or thank, right? And let's compare that with the Mandarin word, right? Xie. So if we say thank you in Mandarin, we would say xie xie, right? In Wu, we would say jia jia. Okay. Now, Old Chinese, the way Chinese was spoken 3,000 years ago, would have been this. Liags, okay? So in modern Wu, we have jia jia. Modern Standard Chinese, modern Mandarin is xie xie, whereas in Old Chinese 3,000 years ago, they would have said something like liags or yags, maybe even. And in the Wu version, we have not only, of course, this voiced initial zh, but we also preserve the vowel even from the ancient pronunciation. Now, speaking of retaining ancient pronunciations, let's take a look at Cantonese. Cantonese is very special because it preserves an important feature that has been lost in most other modern varieties, okay? Now, along with other southern varieties like Hakka or Minnan, Cantonese retains the same word final consonants that existed in the Chinese of 1,000 years ago. So let's take, for instance, the Standard Chinese or Mandarin word yue. Okay, yue historically referred to various kingdoms and tribal entities in southern China. Okay, so yue is a very old word. It originally referred to these southern Chinese kingdoms. And we can reconstruct this yue to have been pronounced in Middle Chinese. So the Chinese of 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago, we can reconstruct it as what, okay? Oh, this is, sorry, what, okay? Whereas in Old Chinese, we would have had, and again, this is 3,000 years ago now. Glad, okay, glad. So Middle Chinese, sorry, okay, modern standard Chinese, yue, Middle Chinese, hua, and Old Chinese, glad, okay? So, amazingly, Cantonese, modern Cantonese language retains this ancient ending that in its pronunciation of this word. That is yut. Okay, so can you think of anywhere else where we might see this ancient word final ta for this word yue or yut or ancient Chinese glad? Okay, now as I say, the word yue refers generally to the ancient peoples and cultures of South China, and it originally referred to peoples living around the area of what is now Shanghai. Okay, now as Chinese civilization gradually spread southward, the concept of yue gradually came to refer to peoples living further and further south, until finally it gave the name to China's southern neighbor, Vietnam. And this is, of course, is from Middle Chinese, Huat Num, modern Vietnam, which is pretty cool, I think. So, you know, that's it for today's discussion of modern Chinese language varieties. As always, feel free to leave a comment. Always great to hear from you guys. And once again, I'm the Professor. See you next time.